This is Andreas, and you're listening to Breakdowns for Breakfast. Oh, yeah.
Good morning. Welcome back to another episode of Breakdowns for Breakfast. I'm your host, Danger, and joining me is a fellow that I cannot properly break down an album without your co-host, Monster. Say hi, Monster.
Hey, Danger. Okay, before we get started, I have to tell you about the day I had, okay?
All right.
I was driving down the road when 3 motorcycles came out of nowhere and were like racing each other down the highway, and they kind of like wrecked. And then the guys got off their motorcycles and started fist fighting with each other. And there was like stuff exploding everywhere. And right as I was starting to freak out and I didn't know what to do, all of a sudden, like 30 people in turbans came out of nowhere. And I heard percussion and some dance music. And it was like a Bollywood film. And I didn't know what to do. So I rushed over here as soon as I could. And I hope I'm not too late.
You're not too late to talk about the one we're here to talk about this on this episode, which is from the band Bloodywood and their album, and their album Rakshak that was released February 18th, 2002. 2022. I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep doing that.
It feels like an album that could have came out in 2002.
It does. And that's actually something I was quite impressed with on this is it's all very well mixed and balanced. And it's very well done from a production standpoint. I don't know. I don't have anything bad to say about the production because I feel like I could hear everything. The bass was a little bit low at times. I will say that, but
we'll get there.
Right. Okay. So first I do want to ask you, do you know what, okay, hold on. Let's back up. So, all right. This is a band that is from India, our first Indian band. And
yes, I'm pretty sure that is correct.
Yes, not like where I claimed that Billy Talent was our first Canadian band, and I was very wrong on that one.
27 Canadian bands, yes.
Not 27, but more than none. So, okay, so this is an Indian band that has lyrics in English, Hindi, and Punjabi languages. Mm-hmm. Now, Rakshak is a Hindi word. Do you know what Rakshak means?
I do. As a matter of fact, I do. It means guard or protector, defender. And if you look at the album cover, it makes sense.
Right. So that kind of set my expectations within this to a certain point where it was, okay, we're not going to deal with the common American sounds of things. With that, I do want to go back to something we were actually talking about just before this. And we've talked about several times before and all. So this was actually my pick, but when it was settled on we were going to do this, you were like, this, Bloodywood screams monster. So
absolutely.
Yeah, I know you've come dressed for the occasion. You've got your Bloodywood shirt on. I've got a Beartooth shirt on. So, on the surface, it screams monster, but to be honest with you, I did feel the nu metal, things within this, but I felt a lot more than nu metal. And, the band incorporates tons of Indian music sounds within it, but there's a lot outside of nu metal within this album to the point where I was quite surprised.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that makes it so quote unquote nu metal is how much they've embraced the tag nu metal. Like, for example, they have a song on their new album called New Delhi in You Delhi.
We're making it steady, so you gotta be finding out if you don't know it already. I carry the dream, born of love and extreme.
They've fully gone all in on it, and I love that. Talking about, you said when you saw the title, you kind of knew it was going to kind of mess with your expectations a little bit of what you thought going into it. Lyrically, not just musically, but lyrically as well. Yes, there is like typical relationship stuff, but there's stuff about politics. There's stuff about sexual abuse. They do not shy away from just about anything lyrically. And getting into the lyrics, obviously, when we do these episodes, we do as much research as we can cram into in a week or so, but it's in multiple languages. Mm-hmm. It's, so sometimes there's like what you hear phonetically versus what they're actually saying in Hindi versus what it actually translates to in English. Oh, yeah. So it's pretty wild.
There were several times that there were things being said in the album where I was like, is that I want to go and read the lyrics. And so I did a sit down with the lyrics. And of course, at a certain point, you just can't understand, or I can't, because I speak one language, and that's American,
and not very well either.
No, I don't speak it good. So it was just an interesting thing because, there were all these things within it that I was hearing, and the phonetics of it are really what it comes down to. Is like, I thought I was hearing certain things and I was not hearing those things. But at the same time, that happened actually a lot in the English lyrics, where I thought I was hearing the words a certain way and then I wasn't. But we've talked about misheard lyrics plenty of times. But, I got to say, usually a singer singing in a different language. I have a album upstairs from Romania, and a friend of mine went to Romania and picked it up and brought it back for me. And it's a really cool album, but I think I've only listened to it like 3 times. And part of that comes from I can't understand anything they're talking about, and talked plenty of times about how, in order to enjoy an album more, you're going to have to relate to it on some level. And I had a hard time relating to a lot of this because there's just, I can't understand it to relate to, but I didn't hate any part of this, really.
I get what you're saying about the language barrier. And I think the fact that this is partially in English and partially in Hindi, and isn't there a third language as well?
So it's Hindi, English, and Punjabi, which I can't tell the difference between Hindi and Punjabi. Call that my American ignorance, but
yeah, it's probably similar to some other languages where there's a lot of core similarities, but they have their nuanced differences and stuff. But that language thing's never really bothered me too much. I haven't talked about this a lot on the show, but at some point we probably will have to do one of these. But I am a huge fan of visual kai metal from Japan. Bands like Jaluka, Dexcore, Zeta, Damned. These are all bands that I love. Kind of 50-50 English and Japanese, but mostly Japanese.
Right.
And don't care because I love the music so much. The visual component blows my mind. I'm really into that. So the language thing doesn't bother me too much, especially here, because I feel like so much of it is in English, but also whether they're singing in an Indian language or in English, with how fast the delivery is, even the stuff in English is hard to comprehend. So it's like, I don't know. Like, it's the same as listening to like the first couple Slipknot albums. Like, Corey is losing his mind. I don't know what he's saying half the time. And when I do, it scares me. So the language thing doesn't bother me.
I know that Corey's told me to push my fingers into my eyes.
I push my fingers into my eyes.
He also made the very astute observation that people equal shit.
Yes, that's true.
You mentioned the production a few minutes ago. That's one thing I don't want to say I struggle with, but there are so many cool folk instruments mixed with the brutal heavy guitars and the really fun percussion. I don't need the extra beeps and boops and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, that was an issue, yes.
We've talked about these bands kind of overstuffing the frequencies. And this, to me, there's a little bit of fatigue that sets in with this album. And I think that's part of the problem, is when they're firing on all cylinders, it's great. It sounds good. It feels good. You're having a good time. But they're doing that a lot.
Yeah.
And these songs have a ton of dynamics. There are lots of slow parts and big parts, heavy and soft, but there's just so much going on at all times that it does, after a few minutes, you kind of need a break.
Yeah, no, I listened to this entire thing in my heavies, and if there's an album made for heavies, good God, this is it. Because it's just, I had to take a break at a certain point. The fatigue definitely set in. And I just had to take them off and put them down and walk away. And I got to say, I actually did it twice because one was I was just overwhelmed with what was going on. I was still enjoying it, but I put them down. It was about halfway through. And then towards the end of the album was when I was like, okay, I'm okay at this point. I don't need more, but I've still got a couple songs to go. So, and that was fun because it's been a while since I've been at that point. Actually, I think the last time I was at that point was actually on Drain STH, where it was just, I had to put it down because it was just so much going on. And that album had a whole lot going on in it that was not on the radio hits and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. There was just, okay. So normally we would have, guitar, bass, drums, and singer. And now we've got guitar, bass, drums, and about 50 Indian folk instruments. But then you also have, I don't even know what the ladies are called that sing in the language. Right. In one speaker, you'll have a guy of an all men's choir, doing their thing. And it's just, there's a lot going on all the time. And it was just too much at certain points, but I didn't hate it. I found something from the guys in the band, and I am not going to say their names. I'm going to leave that gift up to you. Yeah.
Thanks. I really appreciate that.
So 2 of the guys in the band said that their initial intention with the band was destroying pop songs by spending time metalizing pop and Bollywood tracks. And yeah, I get it. I don't think they just destroyed pop songs. I think they destroyed a part of my eardrum.
So they have a pretty fun documentary on YouTube that I watched the bulk of called Raj Against the Machine.
Yeah.
That's another thing that we need to address. Yes, there are some heavy moments on this album lyrically. There's talk of suicide. There's talk of sexual abuse. They also are very silly.
Yes,
and
they are.
One of my favorite things about this band, and you mentioned earlier, I'm wearing my Bloodywood shirt that I got at the concert when I saw them open for Black Veil Brides and Baby Metal. Just realized all 3 of those bands begin with B. That's quite the alliteration tour.
It is.
And when you see them perform live, first of all, great live band. They're super tight, super energetic. But then you see them on that documentary, which is a whole lot of live footage. And we'll get into, I've got a little blurb I want to go over about that. They smile so much. Yeah. And for me, that's one of the things about listening to it versus seeing it. Like there's a song in particular, when we get to it, I'll tell you, the music video, I love, it's probably my favorite song on the album, but I love it twice as much when I'm watching the video because of what the guys look like while they're playing it, because you can tell they're having fun. And I love that. Like there's so many bands that are so super serious right now that I don't know, like this is heavy metal. It's meant to be fun to an extent. Yeah. And so I appreciate these guys embracing that.
Yeah, no, and that is fun. But as far as the serious topic of the songs, I do have most of the songs, what they were about, and like kind of what the root of why they did what they did or why they wrote the song. And I did try to find some more on certain things, and I just couldn't. And I think part of it is because, well, it's an Indian band singing about political issues specific to India. Sure. And since a lot of the political issues we're talking about are also things that either exist now or have existed now or have existed in this country, it's really hard. It was really hard to kind of find what exactly the things were in this one. And there's one very specific that I will talk about when we get to it. But okay, I do want to talk about how this is probably one of the more impressively produced independent albums that I've ever come across, because it was independently released. They got their success off of Bandcamp, which for a band to put out an independent album that sounds this polished and gains such success off of Bandcamp, because I have here that they topped the album sales, and as of March 2022, they were 22nd all-time best-selling new release and 3rd best-selling metal release on Bandcamp. But also, they enter the Billboard charts, making Bloodywood the first Indian metal band to ever do that. Now, that made me curious. What are other Indian metal bands? And I didn't find any that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, so I there's a couple parts when I was doing research and taking notes where I was like, I kept wanting to say, wholly original, completely new. Nobody else is like this. And I kept thinking, nah, it can't be true. I'm sure there's somebody else. But this mix of traditional instruments with the new metal bounce and groove and stuff, I can't find anything else like it, which is part of the reason it does appeal to me so much.
There is another one like it, and we've actually covered them on the show. I think that this is closer to what Boy Hits Car wanted to be when they put out their stuff than what actually ended up coming out.
Yeah, but Boy Hits Car is a little bit more hot smoky.
Yeah,
they're a little bit more
fair, but
trippy and hippie.
Yeah, I feel like they were going for the the heavy riffs with the world music sounds.
Yes.
And that's what we got here, and we got riffs that aim to hurt on this one.
And after a couple listens, they do. Like, they physically do.
Yeah. No, they definitely do. Okay, so I'll say I play this one more in my car than anywhere else. I think I listen to those. Okay, so I'd get in my car in the morning and I'd go into work and I'd start the album. And then I'd get in my car after work and I'd start the album. So I think I'd listen to the first 3 songs. I don't know how many times. It was one of those things when I realized it's like, wait a second, I got to listen to this whole thing.
Okay, so here's something I will say, and I bring this up in my closing statements, but you know how we like to give little teases. This is the perfect 30-minute band. This is perfect for about 30 minutes. When I saw them live and they played 5 songs, it was perfect. It was just the right amount of getting your teeth kicked in with a little bit of melody here or there. And it's a blast. But when you start getting into 40 minutes, 45 minutes, because here's the thing. I like every song on this album. I love a couple of songs on this album. But I can say definitively that every single one of these songs is too long.
Yes.
Every single one of them.
I will 100% agree with you.
And I think that's just simply because this is their first time writing an album. This is the first time they wrote songs. I have a little bit of a biography that I'll go over in a minute that kind of, I think, explains why this is great in a lot of places, but it is not perfect, and it's definitely a debut album.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely a debut album, but I'm giving props because it doesn't feel like a debut album in the sense of a lot of other debut albums. This feels like maybe a 3rd or 4th independent album, And
if you don't know kind of the story of these guys, it might even blow your mind even more.
Okay. So before you jump into your history of I don't have a problem with the vocals on most of this album, but there's a few places where, the guy who does all the rap verses. Okay. So there's 2 old British guys named the Mitchell Brothers that rap. And it's actually impressive.
Fine, your mama's hooked on the packs, I'll be selling her. I click M's and bang 'em and I'm not saying. I feel his head with the lead like a mukbang. The magazine.
But it's mostly impressive because they're in their 80s and putting out.
Oh yeah, you've sent me that before.
Yeah. And I just think it's fun. But the thing is that the guy that does the rapping on here, a lot of times he sounds like one of the 2 guys, like the taller, deeper voice guy. And it's that's what I heard, and I could not get that out of my head. There's a lot of places on this album that he doesn't sound like that, but there's a lot of places where he does.
There's 1 or 2 parts which, let me go ahead and preface this, the rapper's probably my favorite part of the whole band. Not just because I love the way he raps, but again, his smile is so infectious, and when I see them live and I see videos, it's like, he's got this gravitational pull that I love it. But there are 1 or 2 parts where he raps in this lower register that I don't love that choice.
That's that's the Mitchell Brothers thing.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. Yeah. It's when he does that he sounds like that. But then I like his flow when he's a bit faster. And yeah, so I'm good with it in a lot of places, but then other places I'm like, oh, you sound like an old British man. But considering that India gained independence from British, and I think it was like 1917. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, go on.
We will not get into global politics today.
This is not a history podcast, but go on.
God help us. But I get why he's doing it, because in those moments, it's usually a softer part of the song. It's usually a part where things have been brought down, so he's bringing down his delivery. We've talked about other bands where the guy has one voice, and so regardless of what the music's doing, they've got one choice, and it sometimes does not fit. So right. I appreciate him basically saying, look, I can't come out here swinging when it's acoustic guitar and, 65 BPMs. I have to reel it in a smidge here.
Right. Okay, so do you want to give us your brief history on Bloodywood?
Yeah, and feel free to interject, or if I say something that surprises you, and let me also preface this. As I go through this, I am going to say some names and try to say some words that my terrible American brain has no comprehension on how to say. So I will go ahead and apologize.
You mean Hindi's not your first language?
It's my third. I can speak this, Klingon, and then Hindi. So I'm going to do the best I can here.
I feel like you would speak whatever language Jabba the Hutt speaks before Hindi, but go on.
Or I just can't believe I said Klingon. Like, of all the different, I don't even like Star Trek.
I was surprised as well, but go on.
Doesn't matter. So the band, quote unquote band, started in 2016. Exactly like you said, doing metal covers of Bollywood songs, essentially. The band was Karen Katiyar playing everything, guitar, drums, did all the arrangements, and Giant Bayodula, I think it's Bayodula, doing the vocals. And he's the singer-screamer.
It's fun to watch you struggle.
I'm sweating profusely. And so what they did was they would do these covers, rock them up, make videos for them, and put them out on YouTube and everything. And they were starting to get a little bit of a buzz because they were so original and unique. And I believe her name was Ileana or Liana. She was a famous Bollywood actress who took one of their videos and shared it to her Instagram. And that started to kind of blow them up a little bit.
Yeah.
That was also the first song that they did, because before this, from 2016 to the beginning of 2019, it was just the two of them. This is when they added Rahul Kerr, and I can say his name pretty good, and he was the rap vocalist. So on that song, once they added him, they kind of started to find their own sound, and that's when the Bloodywood sound really started to come in. So at that point, they started writing their own material. And the first song that they ever wrote and released is actually on this album. It's G Verde, which we'll get to that song when we get to it. And once they release that song, they start getting offers from managers and tour managers and record labels and stuff. And they signed with a booking agent that booked them a 15-date European tour, including a spot on the Wacken Open Air Music Festival.
Yep.
They didn't have a band. It was 3 dudes, and 2 of them were vocalists.
Right.
So they were like, what the hell are we going to do? So they basically went out and found these guys. They found 3 other musicians and a sound man. They said, we need a sound man who understands what we're doing and can mix all of this shit together so it doesn't just sound like noise. So there's why it sounds so good, is because they specifically found a sound guy in India that got it and just knew how to do it.
Well, out of 9 billion people, I'm sure there was at least one that could.
There's a handful of people over there.
Yeah, just a couple. Okay. Do you have who the touring musicians are? Because as far as I could find, those 3 are the only people actually still listed in the band, but there's a list of touring musicians. And then when you watch the music videos, there's other people in the band as well. So I'm not sure if those are the same people.
Yeah. So best I can tell, the band is Karen Katiyar on guitar, flute, production, all that stuff.
All the things.
Giant Bayadullah on vocals. He does the clean, the screaming, and those vocals. And then Raul Kerr is the rap vocalist. And then you have Sarthak Hawa on the dole, which is the Indian percussion instrument that you hear pretty much on every song.
It's the drum that has like two sides on it that they hit one with their hand, one with the stick. Yeah.
Yes. Then Roshan Roy on bass and Vishesh Singh on drums. And as far as I can tell, they joined, quote unquote, the band in 2019, and they're still there. Like, they did that opening tour with them, and the best that I can tell, those were the same guys that are in the music videos and were on stage when I saw them just earlier this year opening for Baby Metal. I get the impression, like a lot of bands these days, like every band I have been in recently, there's one or two guys that do everything, and then live they just fill it out with their friends who can play it.
Right.
And so that's pretty much what's happening here. I don't know, because this was, like you said, an independent release on Bandcamp. I don't know exactly who does what on this album, but I would have to imagine that Karen, the guitar player, is doing just about everything, and then you have the vocalists. I'm pretty sure that's what we're listening to.
And every time you said his name, I thought, I don't think that's right, because I think it's Karan, not Karen.
So I watched that documentary, and every time they said his name, it was Karen.
Okay. I'm wrong. Okay,
And
now, I will say I have that all tracks are written by him. So,
yes.
Maybe it is him doing it. So, all right, you ready to jump into this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
All
let's
right.
do it.
So I'm going to let you say the Hindi name, and then I'm going to tell you what the translation is afterwards.
This is not fair. You picked this album. All right, track one.
You didn't say no.
Track one, Gadar.
Gadar means traitor.
Which makes sense with the lyrics on this one.
Right. So this is political commentary exploring how politicians rely on dishing out hate in order to gain votes and raise their political standing, and how one can rebel to break the cycle while advocating for the separation of church and state. Now, that's a lot of subjects to pack into a song, so I feel like having a rapper works to their advantage wanting to cover such topics.
And when you have a 5-minute long song with essentially 3 verses by 2 different vocalists, they
Right.
cram a lot of words into
Yes.
most of these songs.
Yeah, and so here's the thing, like, this is one, and I kind of found myself stuck in this in several places throughout this album where I was having trouble kind of putting notes together, because it was like, I like this thing, but I like this, I don't like this part, but I like this, like, I don't know, it was like all these things where it was just, I like what's happening overall, but then there were like little things within it that I didn't. But as far as opening track goes, I mean, they give us a soft intro. And then hit us big at 19 seconds. And then it doesn't come down until 2:59.
I don't remember if this is the first song I heard, but it is the first song on the album, so it's the one that I've probably heard the most.
Okay,
which
so
is fine.
Now, the album was released in 2022, and this came out November 9th, 2021. So,
Yeah.
it was released well
So-
before the album.
I know I had seen the video and heard the song well before the album came out. And the opening riff is gnarly when the dole comes in and you have that Hindi feel. Like, to the music, it has this, they were calling it like a swing rhythm, which is kind of that typical Bollywood kind of rhythm. Like, if If you've ever seen a Bollywood movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
And I love the riff. I love the groove. The screaming vocal comes in and I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. I like this. But at 56 seconds, my like turns into love. Because when Raul comes in with those rap vocals,
I see a state turning to fate turning to hate turning to votes turning to notes.
every time, just absolutely love it. And again, on the video, he comes walking up to the screen. He's delivering this flow, arms flailing, huge smile on his face. And it's just like, yes, injected into my veins. I love this.
Okay, so I've watched quite a few of their videos. I don't know if I watched this video specifically. I think I did, but they've got a lot of videos for songs. I feel like the ratio of video to tracks is higher on this album than most albums that we do.
That's because that's sort of how they got where they are to begin with, is because they were doing those covers, but they put a video, and a lot of the videos are just, like I said, especially before the rest of the band got there, was just 2 or 3 guys walking around India singing the song, you know?
Yeah, no, and
which is kind of what this video is.
More or less, yeah. Actually, I did see this because I can identify that. I got that. Anyway, yeah, I mean, it's a cool song. I think it's a great opener because it hits big really quick, and it really showed you that they're going to fully weave those heavy sounds with the Indian folk music. But, I told you I listened to the first couple of songs off of this album over and over. I've got to say, I really didn't get a whole lot of that nu metal sound. Like, yeah, the rap verses, the rapping is part of nu metal. Yeah. And the thing is that I don't feel like this is a nu metal album. I feel like that nu metal is probably, like you said, they just embraced the title of it. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. But yeah, I get the nu metal influence on this, but I got that this was just a lot more of just a metal crunch of an album with some nu metal flares.
I mean, so I'll read the genre tags off of Wikipedia. Nu metal, folk metal, rap metal, metalcore.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I get where the nu metal comes in, but I don't know. This just felt.
Sir, you are not educated enough on nu metal, apparently, because if you don't think this is screaming nu metal at you, I don't know how to help you. Because this is, especially this song. Some later songs, maybe not as much, but this one is 97% nu metal.
Okay, I don't feel like nu metal has riffs this big and this heavy.
Well, I will say this benefits from that modern day production on those guitar riffs.
Right.
Because there's a lot of these kind of chuggy riffs in 99, 2000, 2001 nu metal, but the production is a lot different on those.
Yeah. And that's fine. I think it does benefit from that newer production for sure. But so I do feel like this one kind of introduced some of those nu metal sounds that they want to do, but I don't feel like nu metal is the front runner tag for this band when they're writing a song.
I think ultimately they're thinking of heavy riffs and they're thinking of how to incorporate traditional instruments, essence of India in it. I don't know that they necessarily are going, this has to sound like quote unquote nu metal. But I think they are thinking, okay, does this have a groove? Does this have something that's going to make people's head nod and pull them into the rhythm and the vibe of what's happening here?
All right, groove it has for sure. Okay, so I mentioned before that it kicks in at 19 seconds and it does not stop. That I think that's one of the, we do get dynamics all throughout this album, but I feel like it's kind of big stretches of no dynamics. And, while I'm enjoying all the things that are happening there, that gets exhausting at a certain point within this. So the first, the first real thing that we get is a break at 2:59. And it's a really cool break because I feel like they went from throwing, the heavier crunches of the metal world with a bit of Indian flair to it, to then giving us more of the, the switch of it, where we got more of the Indian sound during that part. And I do have to say that whenever they do take those breaks and kind of calm things down, that's when we get a lot more of the Indian flair of what's going on. And I always think it's a good thing. I always think it's a good move when they throw that in. I just kind of wish they'd bump that up a little bit just to kind of keep us from getting bogged down a little bit too much. But that break happens at 2:59 and it doesn't last too terribly long, which I like because it's like it just gave us enough to catch our breath, but then it comes back real big again. And I kind of would have been okay if they came back big for about half as long as they did there. And this goes back to what you were talking about before, that every one of these songs is too long, and I will 100% agree. I feel like this song could have ended out closer to 4 minutes than 5.
I have the exact same note. There's a section that starts around 3:41.
Yeah.
That almost sort of like a metalcore breakdown. And that section is only a few measures before Raul comes in and starts rapping.
You brought the yin, we brought the big gang, make a big bang, let me roll.
I would have been cool with just doing that breakdown for a couple measures and then, ending the song right around 4 minutes. I don't mind that they go back into, I don't think they need a rap verse and another chorus. It's kind of like the Metallica thing. A lot of these songs will do verse, chorus, bridge. And then instead of doing another chorus and ending the song, they're going to give you another verse and then another chorus. And also most of these songs have little pre-choruses and little connective parts too. So it's this section's only about 12 seconds long, but they do it 3 times. And then they're going to add this last section at the end that's going to add another 16 seconds or whatever. And so next thing you know, you've got 4.5, 5 minute long songs, which aren't a bad thing. But when they're this aggressive and stuffed with so much sound, it's a fatiguing thing after a while.
Oh yeah. And I think part of that is where they are so politically driven and they have so much they want to say, which is fine. Be that. I mean, I don't have a problem with a band being a politically driven band if they're also putting out good music, and that's what they've always been. But at the same time, maybe you've tried to pack too much political message into the song. And, I don't know if he needed to come back to wrap out a last part. I think it would have been okay for him just to sit down.
I will say a couple of lines that really stick out to me on this song. I love at the end of the first rap verse where he says, "Don't need no gun. I bring the fire and the fury of the third world, son."
I don't need no gun, I bring the fire and the fury of the third world, son.
Every time he says that, I'm like, I wish I was from India so I could say hell yeah. That part's so cool.
Well, and then, you still can, just don't let anybody hear you.
Right. Say it quietly. And the other one I like is where they kind of chant that "never will I stop, never will I say die."
Never will I stop, never will I say die. I said never will I stop, never will I say.
I find that to be really cool. Yeah, but the cool thing about this one, as far as it being political, is it's not necessarily this side is right and this side is wrong. It's more like, if you're a politician, stop being a shithead and lying to everybody. It doesn't matter what side you're on. Just be honest and do what you say you're going to do. There's even a line in here where he says, I don't have the lyrics in front of me, but it's something along the lines of, we're not asking you to do anything special. Just do what you say you're going to do. No more of that fake WWE shit. We're talking about real shit like UFC.
Yeah. It's he says we're keeping it real like UFC. I don't remember exactly how it's put together. So yeah.
We're saying, but we're saying nothing new. We're just saying you better do the shit you say you're gonna do. None of that fake shit, WWE, cause we keep it real like the UFC.
Oh yeah, so I like that yes, it is political, but it's not necessarily one side versus the other as much as just be cool, man.
Just be better.
Right, just be better.
All right, you ready to talk about track 2?
Sure. Track 2. Aj.
And Aj means today.
They should have named it Today.
So this was the second single and second video for this album, and they were both released on January 24th, 2022. The video was shot in Munnar, Kerala, and they had a bit of difficulties filming the video because they were encountering bad weather, denial of permission to shoot in certain places, but then along with that, they had some accidents with drones and also accidents with leeches.
Oh,
Yeah. So, okay, this one starts out quieter with that flute. But then
yeah, the flute's cool.
the flute is cool. And I think the last time we had a flute on the show that was so prevalent was, I think it was maybe Marilyn Manson's Antichrist Superstar.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not good flute.
Yeah. Is there a good flute? Here's good flute.
Yes, there's a lot of good flute here.
Yeah. So, okay. But it gets big real quick. I didn't get a timestamp of when it gets big, but it gets big. Because then we get some impressive double bass. I don't know. It's like every time that double bass would kick in, it was like, hell yeah. Hell yeah. I like that. So, I don't know. It just made me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
So this one's kind of fun on the verses because the verse is essentially 3 parts, and it's like the rap part.
The end of the tunnel and I might die in the dark, but the pain is part of the struggle. I got my demons at my back, but I'm ready to rumble up.
The metal part. And then the rap metal part.
I'll be better than I was back then. Never say never. I was trapped in. Put it all together as I fought.
I love the way it flows because when the first part of the verse kicks in, it's rapping, but the music's kind of pulled back a little bit. Then the second part kicks in, it's real heavy, and he's screaming. And then the third part, the music stays heavy, but now we're at this like halftime groove, and it's back to rapping. I love all of that. The only thing I don't like is during the first section where he's rapping, there's this sound. I don't know if it's a bell or if it's like a symbol of some kind, but it makes this weird like boom, boom sound.
The struggle, I got my demons at my back.
And I don't hate it, but it's so loud in the mix. The first time I was driving in my car and I heard it, I had to turn it down because I thought my car was getting ready to explode. Like I thought something was going wrong. It's not bad. It just feels weird. And I don't know why it's in there.
Well, given your car issues, that's a good fear. Like, I understand the fear. Yeah. But
exactly.
I don't
think it's
remember
like,
that.
I tried to timestamp it, but it's a little bit off with the beat. It's like around 48 seconds, 54 seconds, and 59 seconds. You'll hear it while he's rapping, and it's just like this echoey like in the background while he's rapping. And I don't need that. Everything else, I am cooking. I am having a blast. Just don't like that.
Okay, so after that, you said it starts at 59 seconds-ish, somewhere there. There's deep growls that start at 104.
I came here to win it.
And then at 131, we get a quick Hindi break, or language break, with some hammered dulcimer.
Just to kiss the sky.
And,
I like that.
and then we get some more of that double bass. And it's just like, I don't know, it was like this really cool, I don't know, I still think it's cool that okay, so I've always had this thought, this idea that not every language has like a rhythm and a flow to it. Like, if you ever watch, a Spanish language version of The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, things don't rhyme.
Vendrá después la peor parte, y en el arte de un falso arte formarán todos un coro.
It's not good.
Right.
Yeah. So when I saw that this was what was going to be happening here, I was like, let's see how this goes. And they kill it. They crush it. So, they pretty much just kind of launch into that during this 131 section. But then at 227, there's this like deep growl rapping behind the clean rapping. They're staying together, and I just thought it was a really cool thing. I remember when I heard it the first time, I went back to see if that's what I was hearing correctly, because I just thought it was a really cool thing where it was like, Raul can rap, but so can the other guy. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. You already did. Okay, so I do want to go back real quick. So Raul said that this song is about the moment in time when you realize you have the strength to do what you have to do to become who you want to become. We all have our demons, our reasons to be stuck in a rut of harmful patterns, and our fears of trying something new. This track is meant to act as a spark to light a fire within the listener to overcome all of that. It's about the fearless pursuit of the next level for as long as your heart continues to beat. So, not a political song about, make yourself better. Yeah.
And even I love the positivity behind it.
Oh yeah.
And there's a song later that's got a really heavy topic, and they spoke a little bit about it before they played it when I saw them live. And even then they tried to kind of put a positive spin on it. So, and even back to Godard, it's positive. It's saying like, hey, politicians do better, be better to make this world a better place. So I really do like that aspect of the band for sure, because typical fashion, the name of the band is Bloodywood. They do have some big F words throughout the album, but at the end of the day, it's still like good, positive, therapeutic metal,
Right. Okay. So I do want to talk about at 305. We get what I was just calling
flute solo.
I was calling them flute chugs because it's a flute with chuggy guitars with it. And I just thought it was a fun thing. But then,
okay. Well, and I was going to say before we go to the end of the song, after the first chorus, it's around the 2-minute mark, somewhere in there. You get the part that I don't like, and the part that I feel is like what makes these songs too long. During that section, after the first chorus, there's this like really like beepy boopy synthy section that just feels unnecessary. You've got so many cool other real instruments that I don't feel like I need the synthy stuff. No. And then after that badass flute solo, I get doing another chorus, but I don't think you need to repeat the first verse again before you do the chorus. That's why this song ends up being 5 minutes long as opposed to 4:15, which there's so much going on that it's hard to sit through it at 5 minutes more than once. Like, obviously, if you're just listening to this album from start to finish, you're moving on to the next thing. You're probably not going to get tired of it before it's over. But if you're listening to it for the third time in 2 days to take notes, it starts to be like, okay, that's a lot.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So what I think would have been good is, okay, so we got the flute chugs at 305, and I like that part. And then we get another verse, chorus, whatever, that I don't feel like is 100% necessary. I kind of feel like where we got the dynamics that are needed at 347. I feel like if we cut out that verse chorus and just put that, that break that we got at 347 up against that flute chug at 305, I feel like it would have been okay. I feel like it would have just cut out that section and it would have been fine, because then we get the old man rapping sound, coming back in. I'm going to call it old man rapping because that's what it sounds like to me. And then it goes big after that. And it's like, do we really need all of those things to happen all within here. I know we've said it plenty of times with the show, but going back to the Offspring episode, if you're going over 4 minutes, there better be a damn good reason that you're doing it. And I kind of feel like they did it because this is their debut album. They're wanting to, pack as much punch as they can. And I don't need a 5-minute punch.
As we just went through every little section of the song, you see how it gets to 5 minutes pretty quickly.
Right.
But it's, like that to me is just, and I'll get into it in my closing statement later, but this feels like an early written song where they're like, this part's too cool. We got to put it here. We got to put this in here. We got to put this in here. And I think as time has gone on, they have started to learn it is a really cool part. We should do it once or twice. And then if they want to hear it again, they will come back and listen to the song again. We don't have to put the part in a third time.
Yeah, do it live. I don't have a problem with longer songs live. Live, I feel like is a place for bands to kind of flesh things out and throw extra things in and have fun with it. Mm-hmm. I don't need it on an album. Is there a song under 4 minutes on this album? I don't think there is.
Yeah, there's a couple. Actually, no, there's not a single song under 4 minutes.
Okay.
You're right. There is one song that is right at 4 minutes. I thought it was under, but no.
Nope, it is right at 4. So, all right, before we talk about that one, let's talk about track 3.
Track 3, Zanjiro.
I've got that it's Zanjiro C.
I don't know if there's a C on the end, but I'll give you a word for it.
On Spotify, it had SE after that, Zanjiro.
Oh, you're right. It does. I didn't write that part down on my notes. You're right. Zanjiro C.
So say the name again. Track 3.
Zanjiro C.
And that means these chains. No. So, okay. I didn't get what this one's about. There's a few that I didn't, but I feel like after we just kind of got brutally assaulted for the first 2 tracks, they gave us a longer of an intro here where it really felt like it was going to be a slowdown. But then it kicks in at 29 seconds.
Yeah, so I said that intro was giving me huge Linkin Park vibes.
Right.
The kind of airy sounds and a little key line. And then when the riff kicks in, that's where they kind of earn that metalcore tag. Because to me, that riff sounds more like that northeastern metalcore, like Kill Switch Engage, Shadows Fall kind of riff. Which, hey, 3 songs in, we're still doing different things, mixing it up. And then once the verse actually comes, the riff stops and it gets super mellow and chill. It's got a good vibe. Like, I think this song has some really interesting dynamics for a while.
Oh yeah, no, I would definitely say that this is where they really introduce like the overall atmospheric sound feeling of things. And, yes, it does get big and it chugs, but then it also pitter patters in the slower in the lower parts. And, I don't know. Yeah, pitter patters. I don't know. I wrote down pitter patters and it was just like, that's the best thing I come up with while listening to it. But yeah, there's like this like pitter patter thing to it. I don't know.
No, I know exactly what you mean, because once you go through the song at about 2:16, you get where like the second verse comes in, and you're exactly right, because he's rapping with a little bit more flow.
Yeah.
And the drums behind it do kind of a pitter patter thing.
It may not get any better, but I'ma make a home right here in the bad weather. Stay real and like a feather, take a weight off.
It is a straightforward beat, but it has these extra little ta-da-ta kind of rhythm to it.
Yeah. And I liked his rapping in this one. Like, I liked the flow that he had, and I was really enjoying it. To be completely honest with you, I think that this is, I don't want to say the best, but I feel like this is a better song for this album, because within the song, we do get more dynamics within it, and we don't get just beat down with the heavy riff. And while I like to be beat down, don't take that out of context.
Too late.
Yeah. I like a song that gives me all of it. And I think it's fun, but at 4:11, it just goes on a little too long.
I like this one, but for me, when I think Bloodywood, the sound I want is Gadar.
That's fair.
That's where my brain goes. So for me, this is not a bad song at all. And after how aggressive the first two songs were, it makes perfect sense that you would go ahead, talk about a slowdown. 10 tracks is a little bit shorter than, 13 or 14. And the first two songs are so aggressive that it makes sense to go ahead because this is not a soft song by any means.
No.
It's just a little slower and a little bit more dynamic than the first couple songs.
Yeah. And I like that about it. And I really enjoyed how it wasn't everything all the time up front, volume turned to 10 at all times. Not that I hate that, because I don't. I thoroughly enjoy that stuff, but at the same time, I kind of felt like this one, if they gave us more tracks like this with this kind of up and down, rise and fall, I don't feel like I would have gotten burnt out as I did on this album. I don't say burnt out, fatigued.
Yeah, that's a good qualifier. It's not that I'm getting tired and I don't want to listen to it. It's just, it's so much that you kind of have to give your ears and brain a little bit of breathing room. And
Right.
songs like this kind of do that for you.
Right.
Which is where I struggle, because do I like this song? Yes. Is it one of my favorites? No. But do I think it's imperative to have these kind of songs on an album like this so you don't get a headache? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. 100%. I don't know. I really enjoyed how it gave us those breaks, but then when the heavy sections do kick in, I didn't feel like it lost any of the emotional weight that the calm parts were carrying. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's one of those things, like, this entire album, I listening to it through headphones, I was reading through the lyrics and the lyrics that I could understand on it. I felt it. And that doesn't happen that often, honestly.
Right.
So, all right, let's talk.
I was just going to say, to your point, even with the language barrier, because the music is so good, that even when 100% sure what the message is, I am still emotionally attached because of how good the music is.
Right. All right, so let's talk about track 4.
Let's try Mashi Biast.
Rise up and get on the attack. Become the generation to break the camel's back. Said break the camel's back. Said break the camel's back. Rise up, get on the attack. Become the generation to break the camel's back.
That was good. And I gotta say, I am thoroughly enjoying.
No, it was not. Do not humor me.
Yeah, it was a good try. I would have gone with Maji Basad.
Basad?
Uh-huh.
Maybe.
Yeah. But I have to say that for me to, normally it would be, I would say, okay, we're going to talk about track 4 and then say the name of the song. But this is fun because I go, we're going to talk about track 4 and then I get to watch you try. Okay. So
the fear in my eyes every time I look down and try to see what the next one is.
Yeah. All right. So, that translates to expect a riot.
And I tell you what, there's a part in this song that is 1000% a riot. And it is possibly my favorite part of the entire album.
Yeah. All right. So this was released.
We'll get there.
Yeah. This was released in April of 2019. So well before the album came out. But the reason why it was released in 2019 is because it was composed for a game that has not come out yet. Do you remember a game called Beyond Good and Evil?
Yes.
Okay. So this was written and composed, put together for Beyond Good and Evil 2, the sequel to it, that has still not come out. Yeah. But the song was rejected from the game. But
it's too damn good. That's why.
Yeah, but it was I just thought it was interesting that every song on this album, it was written for the album, for their own purposes, for political purposes, whatever. but this was written for the game. So anyway, this was a song that was intended as a call to action to fight injustice. Yeah, I mean, I'll expect a riot, fight injustice. Yeah, because it kicks in big and heavy and hard. I don't know. Like, I feel like the way it kicked in, I was supposed to feel hurt inside, and it was out to hurt my emotional being.
So for me, songs like Godard, songs like this is the Bloodywood that I love, when they've got those chuggy riffs with the Indian percussion, with that kind of swing rhythm. That to me is when Bloodywood is locked in and 100% confident in what they're doing.
See, now, I feel like this is their most new song.
It definitely is. It's definitely very new. And obviously, if they did this sound on every song, it would get repetitive, and you don't want that.
Right.
So you can't have an album that sounds exactly like, those 2 or 3 that are on here. But for me, like you said, that opening riff is just gnarly. The way he comes in with the vocals.
It's a fight that goes beyond bad and good. It's a fight between can and should. So bound.
Love that. Love the rhythm of his voice with that riff. All of that is, God, I love this song.
Okay, so I get it. I get it. We're going to break the camel's back.
Generation to break the camel's back. Said break the camel's back. Said break the camel's back. Rise up. Get on the attack. Become the generation to break the camel's back.
I get it.
Okay, so I will say the break the camel's back part is not silly, but it feels, I don't want to say sloppy, because that's not the right word, but around that time, there's also those digital sounds again that I don't want them in there. Like, I feel like they could have just completely got rid of all of that.
Yeah, they could have.
For the entire album. And so that little section does get a little bit too much. But as soon as I'm sort of like, all right, I love this song, but I don't really like this section, everything drops out and I hear, hey there, hi, I'm ready to die. I'm back in.
But not only do you hear, hey there, hi, I'm ready to die, it gives like a squeak of a dog toy.
Hey there, hi, I'm ready to die.
I thought it was a rubber duck.
Okay, see, I just said dog. Well, I just said dog toy because that's what I feel like it is, but it could also be a rubber duck. I also felt that at some point. I don't know. It gives a toy squeak.
Yes. So then we do some more verses and choruses and stuff. And then around 229,
hold on,
something happened.
Before we get to 229, I want to
get to 229 so bad.
I know. But I really like how the hand drums, or whatever that instrument is called, I can't remember the name of it.
Dole.
The dole. I really like how the dole came in at 210. Because it was, and I really only picked it up in headphones, but it was there beforehand, but it was like, it just kind of got pushed to the front there at 210. And I really like the way it came in, because it didn't come in and crowd things. It came in and accented everything that was happening. But right. Go on.
And I think that goes back to what we were saying before about having a sound engineer that gets it, because this would be real easy to get sloppy and a little bit hard to distinguish. The only, I was trying to think of an American producer that kind of could possibly pull this off as well. And maybe it's just the new metal brain in me, but I thought Ross Robinson, because I thought back to that first Slipknot album where you've got the percussion players, the DJ, the sampler, Corey screaming his head off. Joey is playing these incredibly busy snare runs and stuff, but you can hear all of it. And it never sounded crowded. You know what I mean?
And then you got a guy in the corner beating a keg with a baseball bat. So
beating the shit out of a beer keg. But around 228 or 229, they lock into this massive, simple riff. It's just a simple, chuggy, open riff. but they've got the dole playing that like Indian swing rhythm. I mean, God, it just locks in and it sounds like 1,000,000 pounds of bricks just being smashed into you. And I love it. It's one of my absolute favorite parts on the entire album.
It is a cool part. You know, like I said, it's probably the most new song they have on this album. And it's a very new part, but it's a very groovy new part. You know,
it is very new, but because of the Indian folk instruments, it feels wholly original to them.
Right. That's fair. Okay, so I do feel like the song should have started wrapping up around 2:45. I do like the part that comes after that, but I kind of feel like that's where things start. Like, I feel like we got so much already. But then we get a second ending around 3:28. And the song goes on till like right at 4 minutes, and fine. It's one of the shorter tracks on your album, but at the same time, you know, I'm not the biggest nu metal fan. That's a well-established fact on the show.
We're going to find that nu metal band that you're going to love. We're going to find it.
If any listener wants to know my feelings on Monsters Random Nu Metal Picks, go listen to our episode on 40 Below Zero or 40 Below Summer. Yeah.
Easy. You're mixing up two nu metal bands you don't like.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. So, okay. Now, as not the biggest nu metal fan, I thoroughly enjoyed this one, but not for 4 minutes. You know, I feel like they threw so much at us, so heavy, so fast, that they really could have wrapped this one up, started wrapping up around 2:45, really bring it to a close around 3:15, 3:30, and should have been done there.
This one doesn't bother me lengthwise because it is shorter. I think they did show a little bit of restraint in this one because they didn't go back into like another verse or anything before that last chorus. They just did the little acoustic section, and, you know, all of that to me works. But because that, you know, particular section is so brutal, I could see being like, okay, let's just bring it down a little bit and call it a day.
Right. And that's kind of how I was feeling about this whole thing, or about things at that point. Jeez, my words just aren't coming out. But yeah, that's how I felt at that point, where it was like, okay, you've hurt my feelings. I need to stop. So, okay, we're going to move on and talk about track 5.
Dan.
And Dan means give a beat down.
Yeah, so talking about the lyrics earlier and what you hear phonetically versus what he's actually saying, I thought he was saying, not gonna die. You're not gonna die, over and over. But he's saying Dan. And basically what it is left and right. He's basically talking about beating some guy's face in.
Yeah. So I do have the note that I'm not going to die before I read the lyrics.
Yes. I remember seeing them playing this live, and I was just screaming at the top of my lungs, you're not going to die. And then I looked at the lyrics. I was like, that shit ain't even close.
No. Okay. So, we've talked about the content of the songs and all, and I feel like this is one of the more heavy songs because this is a graphic commentary on sexual abuse and the need to eliminate it. It begins with the reflective, almost homicidal rage we feel when we hear about these crimes before moving on to a more level-headed call to arms.
I have in my notes, if you are unfamiliar with the song, first of all, this one musically is pretty wild with the way the rhythms change and stuff. There's a whole lot of kind of stops and starts and shifts. But the first lyrics that you hear is, I put my fist through the face of a rapist.
I put a fist to the face of a rapist.
That is wild. Like, to start your song with that lyric. And here's the thing, though. Because of his flow and because of the, I don't want to say swagger, but the confidence that these guys have, it works. Yeah. And as soon as he starts going in, you're like, yes, I agree. Let's go.
Okay, I do like his flow better in this song, but okay, let's talk about the music real quick. All right, so it does start with the light percussion of things.
Mm-hmm.
But then it drops a barrage of riffs at 18 seconds. And
it has this weird rhythm to it that we haven't really had on any song yet.
Right. And I would say it's actually a weird rhythm that doesn't really exist in a lot of songs, even outside of this band. And I think that's why I gravitated towards this one.
Yeah.
Real quick, because this is one that I was like, okay, so starting off with the fist through the face of a rapist was like, all right, you caught my attention. I do like his flow better here. And I felt like his flow is actually closer to like a Tech 9 type. And
yeah, I can hear that.
Yeah. And I thought it was a lot of fun because I was all in on this one until there's like a weird, like trumpet flute thing in the headphones that I was picking up more. I did not pick it up, outside of headphones nearly as much, but it was just one of those things where it was like, I'm not really the biggest fan of that and I don't like that, but then it doesn't last forever. It does go away. But then I like everything else that's going on.
It's right after he does I'm going to say it. It's right after he does the "you're not going to die" part, right?
Yeah.
Then the music like goes back to that kind of like opening like rhythm. And then there's like this kind of like horn there that I agree. I don't think it sounds bad. I just think that it's so out of the norm for what we're used to hearing that it sounds like super out of place.
Right. And given that there's so much sound on this album and so many sounds that we're not used to, I was okay with it. I mean, I wasn't the biggest fan, but like I said, it didn't last that long. And I just kind of, I don't know, it was something that took away from things in this song. Okay. And then also, I do like we have more of that growl rapping with the clean rapping, and I liked it, but it gets exhausting at 40.
You're right.
I would have been really into it at like 25, but at 40, I'm like, okay, guys, I get it. I'm not going to die. We're growl rapping. All right, cool. And I think part of it's been because there's been so much so far on this album. We're at track 5, and it's like, this is when, I don't want to say this is when the fatigue set in, but this is when I started going like, all right, I'm having fun, but I don't need all of it, especially the chug singing that came in. Was there a point? There's a choice. Not a choice I would have made, but I don't know. I feel like this whole thing could have wrapped up closer to 3 minutes than 5.
Yeah, so like around 3:12, we have like this kind of like chuggy sort of breakdown section. And instead of screaming or rapping on top of it, they bring in this female vocal. And it's really cool. But then at like 3:45, 6, 7, somewhere like that, they get all like super digital sounding again. Like the rap comes back in. I'm cool with bringing the rap back in, bring the song down, sort of a mellow rap.
Yeah. Now if you're straight, time to turn back and run with the pack. It's time to fight. Yeah.
I just don't like the weeble, beeble, wobble, bubble stuff. Like it's unnecessary. But after that, they go into this sort of, it reminded me of Linkin Park again, because you've kind of got some big, warm chords where he's kind of rap singing on top of it,
I raise a fist for the nameless faces. He disgraces, raise a fist for the nameless faces. He disgraces in the air. One day.
And I really like what he's saying there, where he's basically saying, like, this is for all the nameless faces, and hopefully one day we can change their kind with my mind, and sort of, again, trying to be positive about these things. However, I also like how it ends with him basically saying, one of these days, maybe we can change their kind with my mind. But until then, and then he goes back into the beat you in the face part.
Yeah.
But until then.
Okay, so I know I was calling it the rave friendly section at 349.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah. So I've said we could have done without the rave friendly section, but we could have just ended. I think it was neat, but I think we could have ended things there. And that, and what you just pointed out is actually an issue that I have, not an issue with the band, but a problem that I had in listening to this, where it's like, I feel like they could have brought things to a close earlier on every one of these songs, but then they do something else that I'm okay with, but I didn't feel like it was needed.
I feel like the breakdown with the ethereal vocal on top, the rave friendly part, like all of this could be tightened up a smidge.
Yeah.
I like that. Well, everything except for the rave friendly part. I would have just taken that out. But you've got the kind of bring it down, and then this kind of big, warm, triumphant ending. And then, do the little throwdown section one more time at the very end. But if you tighten those up, take out the digital section, you've cut 30 seconds out of the song. And now you're looking at something that's closer to like 4:15, 4:20 instead of 5 minutes. I don't think you get that same fatigue feeling anymore.
That's fair. All right, let's talk about track 6.
J'y verrai.
Seem to get revolt now I'm sat back looking at the big bubble saying talk back. You're bigger than the trouble. Walk this valley of death, head high, say I'll be back today, I won't die. Try as we may, we can never deny.
I feel like you went a little more French on that one, but
Yeah, there's no way that's right.
no. Okay, but that translates to Live Brave One. And this was a song that was released July of 2018. So
This is the first song they wrote as a band.
okay.
Like the first original they ever wrote.
Now, do you know why they wrote this song?
So this is, if I'm correct, this is sort of like an anti-suicide song.
Yes. Okay, so they wrote this song in June because in June, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in India, and this is what I was referred to, where it was very specific to India, and I was really having a hard time finding what this was exactly, but it was a widely criticized infographic that the ministry released, and the band distributed 60 free private therapy sessions throughout India with a partnership of non-governmental organizations. And then on top of that, several fans of the band actually paid for further sessions for others as a result of that. I think that's cool.
Documentary, they talk about how many people reached out to them and basically said, this song changed their life. They've got this tattooed on their body. This really like helped them. And I'm glad to hear that. I'm super glad that this song has impacted people that way. And I like the lyrics. I like the lyrics a lot. I really like what they're trying to say here. I wish I liked the music more, because for me, this is one of my least favorite on the album.
I think this was a good one. It's not one of my least favorite on the album. One further on is one of my less favorites on the album, but I think this was a really important song here for pacing of this album, because everything's been so brutal. And, it starts with more of the flute. But I feel like it kind of set the tone for this song. And I thought that was cool, because at 20 seconds, we do get a spot of heavy.
So here's the thing. I like the flute. I think he's a great flute player. There's something about the melody of this flute line that doesn't work for me. And it kind of, especially the repetitiveness of that, like over and over and over, that I don't love it. And then for me, once we kick into the verse, Raul's in that voice that we kind of agreed is not his strong suit.
That double low where the sun don't shine and the moon don't glow. Sat back trapped in the big bubble saying Chuck that man, it ain't what the
And I get coming down because the music comes down so much, but then the music there also doesn't really sound like Bloodywood. Again, it sounds like Linkin Park because you've got the clean guitar. It sounds like the verses of Somewhere I Belong.
When this began, I had nothing to say, and I'd get lost in the nothingness inside me. I was confused, and I let it
More than it sounds like anything off of this album. And I'm not trying to beat up on it because, like I said, and you said, so many people got so much out of this. And if you stop and think, this came out in 2018,
Right.
4 years before this album even came out. It's almost like if this was the first song you heard, you might feel differently. If you haven't heard Godard and Donna Dan yet and all that stuff, it's like, this is so wild and unique and different. But just track 6 on this album, it's like, I agree that you needed something a little more mellow for a while to, give yourself a break. I don't know. This one just doesn't do much for me.
I do like the growl that he gives on Still Alive. It's like that line gets angrier and bigger, and then he drops that. Then we get a neat chorus that I don't understand the words of.
Right.
But this song I was calling Indian Park because it does sound a lot more Linkin Park. And
which makes sense.
It's fine.
Yeah. Again, this is one of those songs where like, it's not bad. It is not a bad song by any means.
Right.
It's just, again, when I think of Bloodywood, I have a specific sound in my head, and this ain't it. You know what I mean? Like, this is a type of song they have in their repertoire that they can pull out, and that's cool. But it's just not my flavor.
Okay, so I will say at 3:11, I like the transition to the flute solo.
I put that in my notes too. I don't love the main flute line throughout the song, but I do like the solo.
Yes. But then after the solo, the drums are just insane. They're fun. They're insane. They're fun saying. And fun.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I never really paid that much attention to them right there. But yeah, it's sort of, instead of just playing it straight with the chords, the drums do kind of get a little wacky there to kind of mix it up. That's cool.
Right. And I feel like that's where they should have kind of brought it to a close, because that flute solo, I think it lasted for about, I think it was 15, 20 seconds, something like that. And then the drums go nuts after that. And that would have been a good place to close it out, but we go on to 4:38. So,
again, yeah, it's just they can't resist. They got to keep going.
Yeah, but you said this was the first song they wrote as a band, and maybe this was them just trying to find their sound.
I 100% agree. I think this was, even Raul, like, this is his first song where he's rapping, again, from what I gathered, this is his first time, like, rapping on an original with these guys. He was a rapper beforehand. Like, he had done, a matter of fact, that's how him and Karen met, was, I don't remember exactly, but basically I think Karen was doing like a lyric video for him, and they hit it off, and he was like, well, what do you think of this? And they started kind of jamming together.
All right, so let's talk about track 7.
Endurant.
And
I I don't have the translation of this one, but I can tell you that this is an anti-bullying song which encourages listeners to endure and come out stronger than retaliate or fight back with force. Music video for the song focuses on the differing adult life experiences of a bully and his victim.
I don't think you have a translation for this because I think that's English.
Okay, it might be. I don't know, but I just assume I assume all the titles are Indian, and that's fine.
I think that's the only one that is English.
Okay, and that's fine if it is. But all right, so my first note on this one is this one also has a flute in it.
Yeah, and I like the flute melody on this one a lot more.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like, we should have expected a heavier song, but this kind of goes into almost a modern new metalcore sound of things. It just gets big and heavy, and it's cool. This isn't by far my favorite song on the album, but it's like, I feel like it was a good one to come out of track 6. And I do feel like, I don't feel like this entire thing was written as an album with good flow, but I do feel like they do have a few spots that do work together or do work well. And I feel like this is one of them because coming out of the song we just did, we needed to get heavy again. And here it is.
This is one of those ones that I like the way he's rapping. I enjoy the guitar riff. The rhythm is serviceable, got a bouncing groove, but you kind of got that feeling again where I don't want to use the word sloppy because it's not. They're tight. They're together. But it does feel like at any moment it could slide off the rails a little bit.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
It's a little bit noisy, but I agree. I think it feels good coming out of the last song to pick it up a little bit. This is another one, though, where there is some kind of an instrument or sound that just hits my ear the wrong way. I don't know if we're going to call it the pre-chorus or what, but around 53 seconds, there's this like in the background. I don't know if it's a particular Indian instrument or if it might be a guitar. I don't know, but it just I don't know. The melody, the notes that it plays sound out of key with the rest of the music.
And so I didn't notice it.
Yeah. And it's like those little things that, like the last song, the flute melody, the flute's not bad, but I don't like the repetitive part on the tag of each one. This song, I like the music, but then they throw in that little thing that feels wrong to me. So that's what I mean. I like every song, but almost every song has that little something that is don't do that.
Okay, so I was fine on this one. It was kind of just like it's good to get heavier again. But there was something that stuck out to me on this one. At 3:12, his scream, it's an 11-second scream. It's an impressive scream. I like it. But then at 3:49, I was not expecting the slowdown that we got.
Yeah, so at 3:12, I have that in my notes too, because it reminded me of old Machine Head or Pantera, more groove metal than new metal.
That's fair. And I put down the note that this is the heavier side of new.
Yeah, I'm. It's still, you can classify it as new, but to me, it doesn't have the rhythm is a little bit more straight up metal than it is bouncy hip hop new metal. But to your point, then we have this slowdown, and then it gets heavy again, and then we're butting up against 5 minutes again.
Yeah. So that's actually something I put that, was not expecting to slow down at 3:49. And then they go back into the heavy, which isn't always needed. And I feel like it just it's first album type of mentality where it's we got to do these things. No, you don't have to. You could have let it slow down at 3:49, let it get heavy for about, I don't know, 2 measures at most and then bring it to a close. And then we're looking at, I don't know, like right at 4 minutes, not almost 5 minutes.
Right. Exactly.
So, all right. So let's move on and talk about track 8.
Yod.
That means in memory.
Just to be clear, there is not a question mark at the end of that word. I'm just letting you know that I am guessing.
Yes. Monster is questioning his life decisions at this point. So, okay. This one was released in early 2020. I didn't get a date on exactly when it was released, but it focuses on moving on after the death of a loved one. And I found some places where it said, an animal or like a pet, and or a person. I couldn't find specifically which one it is, but the band purchased an ambulance for use by a local animal shelter for the release of the song, which cool. I didn't find what they did with that ambulance, but they bought it. So, okay. More flute.
The flute's good on this one. This is another one where, okay, so the opening chords, they're like big and warm, but we're kind of at a much slower tempo. I hate to keep saying it. It feels very Linkin Park-esque again.
Yeah. Another place where I have the note of Indian Park.
Yeah, I like that. Indian Park.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a real place. I'm sure it is. And then when he comes in with the rap again, he's in that voice that we kind of said is not our favorite.
When I said I would love you forever, and you thought it would only last as long as we were together. For the past and the past lost, but it made me.
So I don't mind it, but I like it better here than on the other song. But I don't know. Like, this is another one where I'm kind of, it's not my favorite kind of Bloodywood song.
No, that's fine. And, just to let you know, there is an Indian Park in Indiana. I just looked it up.
See, that sounds like double dipping because you're already in Indiana. Like,
right.
That's too much.
But then there's also an Indian Mountain State Park. Yeah. But I feel like, in these cases, it's more of like we're going to call Native Americans Indians because, Christopher Columbus couldn't tell where the hell he was in the world.
That's also true. That's probably, more accurate.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
now, what I will say about this song though, so I just said, I don't love this song. It's not one of my favorites. I do think the section that starts around 241 is very pretty, and I like that a lot. However, that guitar solo that starts around 306.
Yeah.
Oh boy. First time I heard that, man, I got chills. It's wild to me that we are on track 8 and this is the first like legitimate guitar solo we've had, and
right.
It's this damn good.
I do like how the guitar solo closes the song, but wait, we have to have a little piano.
It does not even come close to closing the song. We are halfway there.
Oh no, sorry. I'm talking about, I was referring to a solo that closes the song. And then there's a little piano.
I'm talking about the pretty flashy rock metal solo at like the middle of the song around 306.
Okay. So what I will say is that, okay, yes. So the guitar solo in the bridge is made for a stadium. I put that note down because it's a big solo and it's a big, impressive solo. But then after that solo, the fatigue has officially set in. Like, I'm having a hard time at this point. Like, this song is one that I had a hard time on in general. And I feel like this one and the next one are kind of a mishmash of songs. Like, so it's, heavy rap in the chorus, and then it goes to like this weird acoustic in the, in the verses, it's the weird, heavy rap thing. And then it goes to this weird acoustic in the chorus. And then it goes back, and then we get a weird, a great big solo. And then, I don't know, this one didn't feel cohesive to me.
I put in my notes, I said that guitar solo, one of my favorite parts of the whole album. Absolutely love it.
I'll agree. It's a fantastic solo.
And then everything after that needs to be tidied up in some way. Like, I don't know exactly without sitting down and like deconstructing the song. But for me, if I'm listening to a metal album, new metal album, whatever, I don't need a song that goes on for almost 6 minutes.
Yeah, I was going to say, what was the timestamp on that solo? I didn't get that one.
Around 3:06.
Yeah, and this goes to 5:40. We don't need that much song afterwards. And that's where I kind of feel like this was, like I said, mishmash, where it's like they kind of just had these parts of things they wanted to put in, and they just didn't know where to close out things. Again,
I don't think it's a bad song, but it does go on too long. And again, just that's not the kind of Bloodywood song I like.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about track 9.
Okay, I can do this one. BSDK.exe.
And that translates into, we're going to run a song that sounds like you downloaded a virus.
This is one of the first probably the only time where I think the beepy boopy thing kind of checks out, because the way the song starts, I like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I was having a hard time with it because the fatigue had set in at this point. And I will say, like, this was not an album that I would pick randomly throughout the album to listen to it. So it was every time I got to track 9 and 10, I had listened to the album completely. And so my opinion of these last two songs is tainted by that fatigue.
Well, I was going to say, I did start this at like 6 or 7 a couple of times, which did not feel good because that's kind of the section of the album I'm not as into. But again, and I don't know if this is, like you just said, I don't know if it is a matter of just fatigue or what. But for me, I feel like the first 5 songs, I am all the way in. And then for the rest of the album, I like everything to an extent, but I'm having a lot more trouble with things. Like, stuff just is, and I don't know if it's the songs aren't quite as strong, or if, like you said, I've already had 25, 30 minutes of this. I'm starting to burn out. You know what I mean?
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I think that fatigue setting in made this probably my least favorite track on the album. But I do like the spoken word part we get at 350.
This is reclaiming the fourth estate, reclaiming journalism as an honorable profession, a nightly newscast that informs a debate worthy of a great global community.
But the rest of the song, it just feels like I said, a mishmash of things. It feels like different songs they had parts of, and they wanted to put them together into making at least 10 tracks for their debut album.
Well, what I like is I do like the chorus where it has the real choppy riff. And there's those parts where basically all the music drops out except for the drums and the vocals. I think that has a cool vibe. And then there's a section that starts around 3:06. That part rules. That's very new metal. got a kick-ass groove. It's heavy. It's got some good screaming in there. And then he starts rapping over it. I like all of that. But you're right. This is track 9 on a fairly long, heavy album. It's a lot. And sure enough, we're looking at, pushing 5 minutes again.
Right. And the thing about it is 10 tracks isn't a long album, but each song is long. So that makes the album feel long. So
It's funny too, because honestly, 10 songs, 47 minutes does not sound that long, but you're absolutely right. When it's this aggressive for so much of it, and again, it's kind of talking out of both sides of my mouth here, because it's like my favorite songs are the heavier, more aggressive ones, but I'm also getting tired because there's so much of it. Like so then they'd give you a 5-minute palate cleanser that's a lot more chill, and I don't want it. So, I have complicated feelings about this band.
you have complicated feelings in general. All right, let's talk about track 10.
Shaka Lay.
And that translates to Rise Up. I don't have what the song's about, but I feel like it has something to do with rising up against your government.
Yeah, well, government, and then also specifically the media. Because there is some stuff about getting back to responsible journalism and not just sensationalism and clickbaity headlines and that kind of stuff.
Okay, so I will say that I do enjoy the flow he has to his rapping more on this one than I have in the last couple.
I can't take $1 billion so that I can give $1 million a life. I ain't no civilian, I can rock a mic, dropping big bombs.
And I do like the start and stop riff that we have. It's a cool thing. But the chorus on this one, I was good with it the first time I heard it. I did not need to hear that chorus more than once. That chorus drove me nuts. In fact, this last track is, I'm going to go ahead and pair it with 9 as my least favorite ones here, because that chorus just ruins the whole thing for me.
Kid, I don't know if you want to call it a pre-chorus or what, but where he goes like real high pitched before it goes into the chorus. I don't love that. And to me, this feels like it's trying to be similar to Godard or Mashi Bast. God, I know I'm saying these names wrong, but it just
it's fun to hear you say them though.
It hurts. It just doesn't quite have as much power. Like it's right there. It's one of those things like we talked about before. Had I heard this one before those two, I'd probably like it more. But because this is track 10 and I've heard 9 more with 2 or 3 that do this same vibe but better, it doesn't really wow me.
Yeah, it doesn't do it for you. Okay, so I will say the only part on this track that actually wowed me, that did anything for me, is at 2:55 where it quiets down. And then when it comes out of that quiet down part, it's like we get a group scream.
Take a deep dive and ask yourself why the lows are so low and the highs so high. I know we can bring the balance if you try, with the mic in a hand and a fist in the sky.
I feel like it was like everybody come in and scream, we're closing this one out. But that was at 2:55 and the song is 4:25. So we don't really close it out there, but yeah.
It's funny because I was curious because I actually like the part that starts around 3:34 with that kind of choppy riff.
Okay.
It just does that thing again where they have like the synthy digital noises mixed in that I just don't feel like they're necessary. You got so many other cool instruments that you've been using. Use those, Yeah. But yeah, I mean, this one's fine. I I agree. By track 10 on an album like this, the fatigue is very much real, and this doesn't do anything to really. I actually think maybe swapping 8 and 10 might have been a good idea.
Yeah.
But as it is, I agree. I don't know that this was written with necessarily like a album flow in mind, because these songs were written. Some were written 4 years before the album came out. So,
True. Yeah.
All
right, Monster, let me ask you a question. What's new with you?
Hey, good looking. What you got? Cooking.
I mean, let's be real. You could kind of make a case for just about any song, but I'm going to say Gadar. Mostly because I think it's the first one I heard. I think from start to finish, it is my favorite song on the album. So we'll go with that.
That's fair. That's fair.
In Danger, What's Cooking?
I feel like probably the best song to cook to on this album is track 3, Zanjiru Sei.
Good job. I'm glad to hear you try.
I gave it the old college effort. No, honestly, I think one of the things that made that probably one of the better songs to listen to while cooking. And I listened to this album probably 3 times while cooking. And what I found was probably the hardest thing about it is it's too chaotic for cooking. And I feel like
that.
Yeah, I feel like that song actually did a better job of kind of reeling a lot of that in and not being so overwhelming all the time. Just all the noises all the time. It's like it was just too much. But, that one I think did a better job. And I like that song. I like it better than the last couple. Let's put it that way. But yeah, it's still in, I would say, up to, I don't know, track 6 or 7, banger of an album.
I think the first 5 are kind of undeniable. There's a thing here or there in each song that usually kind of hits my ear the wrong way, and obviously I think they're all a little bit too long. But then, again, not that there's anything wrong with that stretch of 6, 7, and 8, but all those songs are so long and are a lot more mellow, and I don't know, it starts to lose me. I like the last 2 songs mostly just because they pick it back up so much, but no, you're absolutely right. I agree.
All right. So now I know that I initially picked this album, and I picked it because it was one that was on our list, and I like where Bloodywood, the little bits that I've seen of Bloodywood. So I was like, yeah, let's pick it. And then you were like, this screams Monster. So I'm going to scream Monster. You go first.
Okay, I'll go first. On Bloodywood's debut album, Rakshak, the band has established itself as one of the most unique and exciting bands in modern metal, especially in the world of nu metal, mixing traditional Indian folk music with brutal riffs and vocals that run the gambit from screams to raps to soaring cleans. Every song sounds confident and self-assured, which gives the album this swagger that a lot of bands can't pull off on their debuts, especially for a band taking so many risks and presenting something almost entirely original. But, as with most debuts, it's not perfect. I like every song on this album, love a couple in particular, but almost every song feels a little too long and a little overstuffed. There is a fatigue that sets in after a while. I love the implementation of all the traditional Indian instruments, but I could have done with a little less of the synth lines and the beepy boopy parts of the production. When a song is hitting you with brutal riffs, screamed vocals, 2 different types of percussion, a synth line, and a flute line all at once, it can be a lot to take in. This is the type of band that is basically perfect for about 30 minutes. And after that, you kind of need a break. And I think even they knew that, because their second album is 8 songs and 33 minutes long. Still though, there is a lot to like here, and if you're a fan of heavy music with a twist, Bloodywood is a great band to get into. And if you ever get the chance to see them live, do it. They are amazing live. 1 to 10, and I wrestled with this, I'm going to go 6.99.
Okay, I had my finger on the 7. So it was,
I had a very low 7 up until I just read that. And I decided to knock it down just a little bit below because as we were talking about it, I realized I love about half this album. And then I liked bits and pieces of the rest of it. And so I reserve a 7 and above for something that I can definitively say I want to listen to. I don't need to be in the mood for it. I like every song enough. This one, even when I'm in the mood to listen to Bloodywood, I'm probably going to skip a song or two.
That's
So
fair.
I couldn't give it the 7. So, but I do stand by, if you get a chance to see him live, do it. It is such a good show. They are so much fun. Great live band for sure. Okay.
All right.
Danger. Let's hear your final thoughts.
Bloodywood has popped up on my radar a few times over the years, but I never really gave them much time. Well, now that has definitely changed. Here we have an Indian folk nu metal band that is pushing things forward while utilizing the sounds that are unique to their home. A band that took an approach to metal that on the surface is similar to a band like Linkin Park in that they mix rapped verses with sung choruses, using both English and Hindi lyrics, all while employing riffs that aim to cause damage to your emotional state and drums that will push you to run a few miles after you've already ran a few at the gym or being chased by the camel that, according to track 4, now has a broken back. India has made their entry into heavy music. If they had before, I either missed it or was just unaware. They gave us an album that is if Sepultura and Boy Hits Car had an angry political baby. Let's call it Rage Against the Machine does world music and tries to kill you with riffs. I wouldn't even classify most of this album as nu metal. I would say it's straight up metal with some rap verses. Bloodywood is a band that anyone who is into heavy music should definitely check out. If they are not on your radar yet, put them somewhere on it. This is a band that has created a career with a sound that is new to metal, a sound that is both unique and familiar at the same time. I gave this album a 6.7.
We were shockingly close on that one.
We were. I think we've only been tied maybe twice, but, all right. So Monster gave Bloodywood Rakshak a 6.99 and I gave it a 6.7, which gives it an overall average of 6.845, which puts it into the 34th position, just above Protest the Hero and just below Drugs.
You know, what's interesting is that tour makes no sense, but it would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I feel like that's been the assessment on several of these that we do. And
very eclectic.
Yeah. It would be interesting. So with that, if you disagree with the score that we have given this album, then please shoot us an email at breakdownsbreakfast@gmail.com or head on over to one of our social media platforms, Facebook, X, or Instagram, and let us know what you thought about this episode and let us know if there's an album that you would like for us to give the breakdowns treatment to.
Podcast math is hard. I don't know when this will come out, but I think it will be in the middle of spooky season over on Second Breakfast. So I hope you're having a ghoulishly good time over there with me on all of that. Danger, what do you call a person who wants to try Indian food but hasn't yet?
What?
Curious.